My parents told me to pay $750 rent for the bedroom I grew up in unless I became a free live-in nanny for my brother's 3 children. They said it at the dinner table, not gently, not as a question, not as a family discussion. My father put down his fork, looked across the table at me like I was a tenant who had missed payment, and said, "Naomi, starting next month, you either take care of Marcus's kids after school and on weekends, or you pay $750 rent." My mother nodded beside him, like the decision was reasonable. Marcus leaned back in his chair, smiling like he had already won. His wife, Tasha, looked tired, but not surprised. And the 3 children were in the living room, watching cartoons, completely unaware that the adults had just decided their aunt's life was worth less than a babysitter's schedule. I was 28 years old. I had moved back into my parents' house 8 months earlier after leaving a job that nearly broke me. I paid the electric bill, bought groceries, fixed the leaking bathroom pipe, replaced the washing machine, and quietly covered my mother's blood pressure medicine when my father forgot the pharmacy money. I did not live there for free, but my family had a special talent for ignoring anything I paid for if it did not make them feel powerful. My name is Naomi Bennett. At that moment, I was sitting at the same dining table where I had done homework as a child, the same table where I had filled out college applications, the same table where my parents had told me for years that family meant sacrifice. Only now, sacrifice had a price tag. $750. Or my time, my freedom, my evenings, my weekends, my last small chance to rebuild my own life. I looked at my father. "Rent?" He nodded. "You're grown." I looked at the chicken on my plate, because somehow looking at food felt safer than looking at my family. "I already pay bills here." My mother sighed. "Baby, those are contributions." I almost laughed. Contributions. When I paid, it was contribution. When they demanded, it was rent. Marcus picked up his glass. "Come on, Naomi. Don't make this dramatic. We just need help with the kids." I turned to him. "Then ask for help." He smiled. "We are." "No. You're using Mom and Dad to threaten me." His smile faded. My father's hand hit the table. Not loudly. Just enough. Watch your tone. That old sentence. It could travel through my body like a cold wind. Watch your tone. Not watch how your family treats you. Not watch how your brother uses you. Not watch how your daughter is drowning. Just tone. My mother leaned forward. "Naomi, your brother and Tasha are struggling. Childcare is expensive. You are here anyway." Here anyway. As if I were a chair. As if my presence meant availability. As if the fact that I came home wounded meant they could turn me into equipment. I said, "I have interviews. I have consulting work. I'm trying to rebuild." Marcus snorted. "You do laptop stuff in your room." Grace would have slapped the air if she had been there. My best friend Grace hated that phrase. Laptop stuff. That was what my family called anything they did not understand but still expected to benefit from. I looked at Marcus. "That laptop stuff paid the electric bill last month." He rolled his eyes. "And now you're throwing it in our faces." My father pointed at me. "No one is forcing you to stay." The room went quiet. Something in that sentence felt different. Not because he had never threatened me before. He had. But that night, the threat entered a room where I had a secret they did not know. A brown envelope sat in my bedroom drawer. Inside, it was a certified copy of the deed to the house. Not in my father's name. Not in my mother's name. Not jointly owned by my parents. The house belonged to Grandma Ruth's trust. And 3 weeks earlier, Vivian Hart, the trust attorney, had called me into her office and told me the truth. Grandma Ruth had left Cedar Lane House to me. Me, the daughter they were now trying to charge rent. The house they were threatening to throw me out of was already mine. Not emotionally, legally, on paper, recorded, protected. My parents did not know yet because Vivian had advised a careful transition. The trust had allowed my parents to live there during Grandma Ruth's lifetime arrangement, and after her passing, there were still maintenance notices, tax issues, and occupancy details being prepared. But the deed was clear. The house was mine. And as my father told me I could pay rent or leave, my hands became strangely calm. My mother mistook my silence for fear. "Baby," she said softly, "it's not punishment. We just need you to be part of the family." Part of the family? I had been part of the family when I woke up early to pack lunch for Marcus's kids. Part of the family when I missed interviews because Tasha had emergencies. Part of the family when I bought school shoes. Part of the family when my mother needed medicine. Part of the family when my father's car insurance lapsed. Part of the family when Marcus needed temporary support that always became permanent silence. But the moment I needed rest, I became an adult tenant. I placed my napkin beside my plate. "How many hours are you expecting me to watch the kids?" Marcus brightened, thinking I was negotiating. "Monday through Friday, 3 to 8. Saturdays, maybe 10 to 6. Sundays, only if Tasha has shifts." I stared at him. "That is almost full-time childcare." Tasha looked down. My mother said, "It would help them get on their feet." I looked at Marcus's clean watch, his new sneakers, his phone on the table. "How much are you paying me?" He laughed. Actually laughed. "Paying you? You live here." I nodded slowly. "And if I don't do it, I pay $750. My father said, "Correct. What happens if I refuse both?" My mother's face tightened. "Naomi, don't be difficult." My father said, "Then you need to find somewhere else." There it was, the final line, the one they thought would make me fold. For most of my life it would have, because I was trained to fear being outside the family more than being used inside it. But that night, something in me had already left. I stood. Marcus frowned. "Where are you going?" "To get something." I walked upstairs slowly, not because I was dramatic, because my legs needed time to believe what my spine had decided. In my room, the air felt still. The small bedroom had been mine, then a guest room, then mine again after I moved back. The walls were pale yellow, chipped near the closet. My desk sat by the window. My suitcase was under the bed. My laptop was open with 3 unfinished applications on the screen. I opened the drawer. The brown envelope was there. My fingers touched the edge. For a second, I saw Grandma Ruth. Her gray hair wrapped in a scarf. Her hands flour-dusted from biscuits. Her voice low and sharp. "Naomi, one day they will ask you to pay rent in a house your spirit already paid for. Don't argue with foolishness. Bring the paper." I had thought she was speaking in riddles. Grandma Ruth often did. Now I understood. I took the envelope. Then I packed. Not everything, just enough. Laptop, documents, Grandma Ruth's scarf, 2 dresses, 3 work outfits, toiletries, chargers, my journal, the framed photo of me and Grandma Ruth on the porch. I zipped the suitcase. Then I carried it downstairs in one hand and the envelope in the other. The dining room conversation stopped when they saw me. My mother stood. "Naomi, what are you doing?" My father's face hardened. "If you think packing will make us beg..." "I'm not asking you to beg." Marcus looked amused. "Where are you going? Grace's couch?" I placed the envelope on the table. "I'm going to Vivian Hart's guest apartment tonight." My mother blinked. "Vivian? The lawyer?" "Yes." My father's eyes narrowed. "Why would you need a lawyer?" I opened the envelope and removed the certified deed copy. Then I laid it in front of him. "Because you just told me to pay rent in my own house." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the cartoon playing in the living room. My father stared at the paper. My mother's hand rose to her chest. Marcus sat forward. Tasha whispered, "What?" I tapped the deed. Grandma Ruth left Cedar Lane House to me through the trust. The transfer has already been recorded. Vivian was preparing the formal occupancy notice. My father's face changed slowly. Confusion. Denial, fear, anger. All in that order. "That is not true," he said. "It is." My mother shook her head. "No, Ruth would have told me." "She told you many things you did not hear." Marcus grabbed the paper. "Let me see that." I pulled it back before he could touch it. No. He stood. You can't own this house. I looked at him. Watch your tone. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Grace would have cheered. My father slammed his chair back. Naomi, do not speak to your brother like that. I turned to him. You just told the owner of this house to pay rent. His face went dark. You are not the owner. I am. This is my family home. No, I said. It was Grandma Ruth's house. You lived here because she allowed it. Then the trust allowed it. And now I am deciding what happens next. My mother began crying. Baby, please, don't do this. I picked up my suitcase. I didn't do this. You did. You turned my homecoming into a payment plan and my life into childcare. Marcus pointed toward the living room. They're your niece and nephews. I love them. I am not their unpaid parent. Tasha flinched. I looked at her. And you knew this was wrong? Her eyes filled. Yes, she whispered. Marcus snapped. Tasha. She stood slowly. No, she's right. The room shifted. Marcus turned on her. What did you say? Tasha's voice shook. She has helped more than enough. We shouldn't have let your parents pressure her. My mother cried harder. My father looked like the floor had moved under him. I took the deed, folded it back into the envelope, and held it against my chest. Vivian will contact you tomorrow, my father said. You walk out that door, don't come back. I looked around the house. The worn floors. The old curtains. The dining table. The hallway where Grandma Ruth once hummed hymns. Then I looked at him. I'm leaving with the deed, Dad. Coming back is not the part you should worry about. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if your family has ever treated your kindness like a lease they could renew for free, stay with this story, because sometimes walking out with one envelope can change every room they thought they controlled. I did not become the family helper overnight. No one does. People do not wake up one morning and hand over their entire life. They are trained slowly. A little praise here, a little guilt there. A little, you're so mature when you are too young to know maturity, should not cost you childhood. I grew up in Cedar Lane House with my parents, my older brother Marcus, and later my younger sister Brianna, who moved out years before this story began. The house had belonged to Grandma Ruth first. Everyone knew that. But the family spoke of it like it had always belonged to my father, because he was the man in the house, and men in our family had a way of standing in rooms until everyone forgot who built the walls. Grandma Ruth bought Cedar Lane House after working 31 years as a school cafeteria manager. She saved coin by coin, cooked for church events, cleaned offices on weekends, and bought that house without a husband, without applause, and without asking anyone if a woman could own property. She used to sit on the porch and say, "A key feels different when nobody can take it from your hand." I loved that house because I loved her. The front porch smelled like rain and pepper plants. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon, onions, and strong coffee. The hallway had a creak near the third step that told on everyone sneaking snacks. The back bedroom, the one that became mine, had a window facing the mango tree. Grandma Ruth said that tree taught patience because it gave fruit when it was ready, not when people shouted at it. After my parents fell behind on rent when I was 9, Grandma Ruth let us move into Cedar Lane House. Temporarily. That was the word. Temporarily lasted 19 years. At first, Grandma Ruth lived there with us. Then, as she got older, she moved between her sister's home and ours until she finally settled in a small assisted living apartment near her church. But she never gave the house to my parents. Never. My father called it our family house. My mother called it home. Marcus called it Dad's place. Grandma Ruth called it my roof. Quietly, firmly. When I was little, I thought adults understood these differences. They did not. Or maybe they understood too well and chose the version that benefited them. Marcus was the first grandchild, the first son, the one my father believed would carry the family name into greatness. He was handsome, funny, and skilled at making adults laugh after disappointing them. If Marcus broke curfew, my mother worried he was stressed. If Marcus failed a class, My father said the teacher did not motivate boys properly. If Marcus lost a job, everyone said the manager was jealous. If Marcus needed money, it was an investment. If I needed anything, it was a request. Requests could wait. I learned early that being reliable was safer than being needy. When I cleaned the kitchen without being asked, my mother hugged me. When I helped Brianna with homework, my father said, "That's my responsible girl." When I watched Marcus's first child at 15 because Tasha had to work and Marcus had things to handle, everyone praised me. Naomi is so good with children. Naomi doesn't complain. Naomi understands family. Praise can be a leash if you are hungry enough for love. I was hungry, so I became useful. By 17, I knew how to make bottles, cook rice for 6 people, fill out school forms, stretch grocery money, and calm my mother when bills came. By 21, I was in college part-time and working full-time at a medical billing office. By 24, I was earning decent money, though never enough because everyone's emergencies arrived at my door. By 27, I had a better job in healthcare operations, then lost myself in it. Long hours. Bad boss. Too many deadlines. Too little sleep. One afternoon, after making a mistake on a major report, I sat in the bathroom stall at work and could not breathe properly. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way. The kind where your body simply refuses to continue the performance. I resigned 2 weeks later. Not recklessly. I had savings. I had freelance consulting contacts. I had a plan. But rent in the city was expensive, and my mother begged me to come home for a little while. "Rest here," she said. "Regroup. This is your home too." I should have heard the two. This is your home too. Not yours. Too. But I was tired. And tired people sometimes mistake old cages for shelter. I moved back into Cedar Lane house. At first it was fine. Better than fine. My mother made stew. My father carried my suitcase upstairs. Marcus came by with the kids, and they ran into my room shouting, "Auntie Naomi!" I loved them. I still do. Caleb was 9, serious and sweet. Maya was 7, loud and brilliant. Little Jonah was 4, sticky, funny, and always carrying one shoe. They were not the problem. Children rarely are. Adults put children into situations and then hide behind them. The first month I watched them twice. Emergency, Tasha said. Second month, 6 times. Third month, every Tuesday. Fourth month, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then Saturdays. Then just for an hour that became 5. My consulting work suffered. An interview got rescheduled because Marcus dropped the kids off 20 minutes before my call. My father said, "Family comes first." I asked Marcus for more notice. He said, "You're home anyway." There it was again. Here anyway. Home anyway. Free anyway. Words that turn a person into available space. Grace saw it before I admitted it. She came over one afternoon and found me making 3 lunchboxes while my laptop sat open with a half-finished proposal. She looked at the sandwiches, then at me. "Are these your children?" "No." "Are you being paid?" "No." "Are you temporarily helping during a defined emergency?" I paused. She crossed her arms. "Naomi," I sighed. "It's complicated." "No. It is unpaid labor wearing family perfume." I rolled my eyes. But she was right. Grace always sounded harsh before the truth caught up. She told me to track my hours. So I did. Quietly. In 1 month, I provided 53 hours of childcare. 53. No pay. No schedule. No real thanks. That same month, I paid the electric bill, bought groceries twice, and replaced the washing machine after my mother cried because laundry was piling up. When I showed Grace the numbers, she stared at the spreadsheet. "Naomi, you are not living with your parents. Your parents are living on you." I defended them automatically. They gave me a place to stay. Grace's eyes softened. Did they? That question stayed. Because around the same time, Vivian Hart called. Vivian had been Grandma Ruth's attorney for years. I remembered her from childhood as the elegant woman who came by with folders and never smiled at foolishness. Her office smelled like paper, lemon polish, and consequences. When I arrived, she greeted me warmly. "Naomi, your grandmother spoke of you often." I sat across from her. My heart ached at the mention of Grandma Ruth. "She did?" Vivian opened a folder. "She was very clear about you." That sentence made me nervous. Vivian explained the trust. Slowly, carefully. Grandma Ruth had placed Cedar Lane House in a trust years before she died. My parents had occupancy protection during a transition period, but the beneficial ownership and eventual deed transfer were directed to me. Not Marcus, not my father. Not all grandchildren equally. Me. "Why?" I whispered. Vivian took off her glasses. "She said you were the only one who understood a home as shelter and not power." I cried then. Right in Vivian's office. Not loudly, but deeply. Because Grandma Ruth had seen me. All those years I thought I was disappearing into chores, into babysitting, into bills, into being steady. She had been watching. Vivian slid a tissue box toward me. She also left instructions. What instructions? Vivian read from a letter. "Naomi will be pressured to give, share, surrender, forgive, and understand. Tell her love does not require eviction from her own life." I pressed my hand to my mouth. Vivian continued. "The house is hers. She may allow family to remain if they respect her ownership, but she must not confuse respect with fear. Cedar Lane must not become another place where Naomi pays to be tolerated." There are sentences that enter your life like a door opening. That was one. Vivian told me the formal notices would be ready soon. She advised me not to announce anything emotionally. "Let the paperwork lead," she said. "People argue with feelings. They panic at documents." I agreed. For 3 weeks, I carried the knowledge quietly. I watched my father sit at the head of Grandma Ruth's table, like a king on borrowed wood. I watched my mother tell Tasha to drop the kids off because Naomi is upstairs. I watched Marcus open the fridge and complain that I bought the wrong juice. I watched them live inside a house they assumed could never answer back. And I waited. Then came the dinner. The ultimatum. Childcare or rent. $750. The exact amount Marcus said daycare would cost after school. They had not even hidden the math. I left that night because staying would have turned the truth into a fight before I had protection in place. Vivian's guest apartment was above her detached garage, behind her home, in a quiet neighborhood with old trees. It had a bed, a small kitchen, a desk, and a window overlooking a garden. It was the first place in months where no one called my name from another room. I placed Grandma Ruth's photo on the desk. Then I sat on the bed and shook, not from fear alone, from release. My phone exploded. Mother, Dad, Marcus, Mother again, Tasha, Dad, unknown aunt, Marcus. Text messages came in waves. "Naomi, come back right now. You embarrassed your father. That deed is fake. Marcus is furious. The kids are crying. How could you leave like that? Your grandmother would be ashamed." That last message came from my mother. I stared at it for a long time. Then I pulled out Grandma Ruth's letter copy from the envelope and read the line again. "Love does not require eviction from her own life." I did not respond. The next morning, Vivian called a formal meeting. My parents refused at first. Then she sent them the trust documents and recorded deed information. They arrived at her office 2 days later. My father looked like he had not slept. My mother looked like she had cried enough to convince herself crying was a legal argument. Marcus came too, though he had not been invited. Vivian allowed it. That surprised me. Later, she said, "Sometimes foolishness needs witnesses." We sat around Vivian's polished conference table. This time I was not alone. Grace sat beside me. Vivian sat at the head. My family sat across. Tasha did not come. I respected her for that. Vivian began. Cedar Lane House is owned by Naomi Bennett, pursuant to Ruth Bennett's trust instructions and recorded transfer. Leonard and Patricia Bennett have no ownership interest. My father's jaw tightened. That house has been my home for 19 years. Vivian nodded. Occupancy is not ownership. My mother cried softly. Ruth never told us. Vivian looked at her. She did not have to. Marcus leaned forward. This is ridiculous. Grandma wouldn't leave the whole house to Naomi. What about the rest of us? Vivian turned a page. Ruth left separate gifts to other family members. Marcus Bennett received funds from a life insurance allocation several years ago after Ruth's passing. Marcus froze. My mother looked at him. What funds? The room shifted. I turned slowly toward Marcus. He looked away. Vivian continued. Those funds were distributed directly and separately. This meeting is not about those funds, except to clarify that Ruth did not forget anyone. My mother stared at Marcus. You told us Grandma didn't leave you anything. He snapped, It wasn't much. Grace leaned back. How much? Vivian checked the file. $45,000. My mother gasped. My father said, Marcus. Marcus glared at Vivian. That was private. Vivian smiled. So is ownership, until people demand rent from the owner. Grace whispered, I love her. I almost laughed. Almost. My father recovered quickly. So what do you want, Naomi? It sounded like an accusation. I folded my hands. I want written occupancy terms. His face darkened. What does that mean? It means if you and Mom remain in Cedar Lane House, you will sign an agreement acknowledging my ownership, paying the utilities you use, maintaining the property, and not inviting Marcus or anyone else to live there without my written consent. My mother looked wounded. You would make your parents sign papers? Yes. After all we've done? I took a slow breath. What exactly have you done lately, Mom? Because I have the last 8 months of bills in a folder. She went silent. Grace placed the folder on the table. Of course she had brought it. Electric bill, groceries, washing machine, medicine, pipe repair, school supplies, insurance assistance, small transfers, child care hours tracked, everything. My father looked at the papers. His face changed. Not enough, but a little. Vivian said, Naomi is also not obligated to provide childcare. Any childcare arrangement must be voluntary, scheduled, and compensated directly by the children's parents. Marcus scoffed. So now I have to pay my own sister? I looked at him. No, you have to raise your own children. His face flushed. They love you. I love them too. That is why I won't teach them that love means using people. My mother whispered, Naomi, please don't make this ugly. I turned to her. It became ugly when you priced my freedom at $750. My father rubbed his forehead. So we sign, or what? Vivian answered. Or Naomi may begin formal notice proceedings requiring you to vacate. My mother gasped. You would evict us? The word hurt, even though I knew it might come. I looked at her. I don't want to, but I will not be threatened in my own house. My father stared at me. For the first time in my life, he looked less like the authority in the room and more like a man discovering the chair beneath him belonged to someone else. The meeting ended without resolution. My parents said they needed time. Marcus stormed out, calling me greedy. My mother cried into a tissue. My father said nothing. In the parking lot, Grace exhaled. That went better than expected. I looked at her. How? Nobody threw a chair. Vivian locked her briefcase. Yet. I laughed. It felt strange. Good strange. The next week was war by phone. Relatives called. Aunties, cousins, church members. People who had never paid one light bill at Cedar Lane suddenly had opinions about my duty. You can't put your parents out. Marcus has children. You are young. It is only a house. Family is more important than paper. Your grandmother wanted peace. I answered fewer and fewer calls. When Aunt Linda called, I almost ignored it too. But she had been Grandma Ruth's closest friend. So I answered. She said, "I heard." I closed my eyes. Which version? The loud version. Then Vivian sent me the quiet truth. My heart thudded. "Vivian called you? Your grandmother named me as a family witness if trouble came." Of course she did. Grandma Ruth had planned for weather. Aunt Linda continued. "Baby, Ruth knew they would do this." I sat down. She knew? She knew enough. She said Leonard had become too comfortable in a house he never earned. Patricia had become too used to your help, and Marcus had turned need into a career. Tears filled my eyes. Aunt Linda softened. "She left it to you because she trusted you not to use it the way they used you. I don't want to hurt them." "Then don't, but stop letting them hurt you and calling that peace." I cried after that call. Not because it solved everything, because it confirmed I was not crazy. Sometimes the greatest relief is someone from the older generation saying, "Yes, I saw it too." My parents finally signed the occupancy agreement after Vivian sent a formal notice. They did not do it happily. My father signed like the pen offended him. My mother cried through her signature. But they signed. Marcus refused to come near me for 2 months. Then he sent a message. "The kids keep asking why you don't love them anymore." That one hurt. I almost replied. Grace stopped me. "Do not let him use tiny voices through big manipulation." She helped me write a clean message. "I love the children. I am available to see them for planned visits. I am not available for unpaid childcare or last-minute drop-offs." Marcus replied, "Cold." I did not answer. The first planned visit happened 3 weeks later at a park. Tasha brought the children. Not Marcus. She looked tired but clearer. "I'm sorry," she said before the kids ran to the swings. "For what specifically?" She nodded like she knew that question mattered. "For letting everyone treat your time like it was free because mine was overwhelmed. For not speaking up until that night. For letting Marcus make you the solution." I looked at her. "Thank you." She swallowed. "I'm working more hours now, and Marcus is finally covering pickup twice a week." "Good. It's hard. I believe you." "I should have said that about your life too." That touched me. We sat on a bench while the kids played. Maya ran over and climbed into my lap. "Auntie Naomi, why don't you live with Grandma anymore?" I held her carefully, because grown-ups sometimes need their own space. "Did you get in trouble?" I smiled sadly. "No, baby." "Did Grandma?" Tasha inhaled. I looked at Maya. The grown-ups had to learn some new rules. She nodded seriously. "Like no pushing?" "Exactly like that. Children understand boundaries better than adults when you explain them without ego." My relationship with the kids survived because I protected it from their father's entitlement. I saw them twice a month. Planned, joyful, no surprise drop-offs, no guilt. I took them to parks, libraries, museums, lunch, then brought them home. I became their aunt again instead of unpaid staff. That was one of the best parts of the boundary. It gave love room to stop being labor. My parents struggled under the new agreement, not financially at first, emotionally. My father hated paying utilities directly because it reminded him he was not king of Cedar Lane. My mother hated asking before hosting relatives. Marcus hated not having a key. That was a major fight. He came one Sunday and tried his old key. It did not work. Vivian had advised changing locks after the agreement. He banged on the door until my father opened it. Later, my mother called crying. "Marcus is hurt that you changed the locks." Marcus does not live there. He is family. He is not an owner or tenant. That sounds so cold. "No, Mom." Cold was telling me to pay rent or raise his children. She went quiet. Then whispered, "I know." That was new. Not enough, but new. The house changed slowly after I left. Not physically. Emotionally. My parents had to carry the cost of their decisions. They could no longer summon me from upstairs. They could no longer call my help natural. They could no longer pretend Marcus's emergencies were mine. My father started fixing things himself, or paying repairmen. My mother had to tell church committees no when they asked to use the house. Marcus had to arrange childcare. Tasha became firmer with him. Everyone became less comfortable. That discomfort was not cruelty. It was reality returning to the right address. Meanwhile, I built my own life. I stayed in Vivian's guest apartment for 2 months, then rented a small one-bedroom near my new consulting contract. It was not fancy. The kitchen was narrow. The bathroom mirror had spots. The neighbor upstairs walked like a drumline. But it was mine. No one dropped children at my door. No one counted my hours. No one called my bills contributions. I bought a small round dining table, not rectangular like Cedar Lane. No head of table. No throne. Just seats. Grace came over the day I moved in with pizza and a plant. She looked around. It's peaceful. It's small. Peace does not require square footage. She was right. For the first few nights, I cried anyway. Freedom can be lonely before it becomes home. I missed my mother's cooking, my father's old radio, the children running down the hall, the sound of Cedar Lane rain. I missed the idea of being loved without a fight, but I did not miss being used. That difference carried me through. Work improved. Without constant interruptions, my consulting business grew quickly. Clinics hired me, then regional health groups, then a hospital network. By 30, I had launched Bennett ClearPath Solutions from my apartment dining table. By 33, I had staff. By 36, we were national. People later called my success sudden. It was not sudden. It was what happened when my time stopped leaking into other people's entitlement. Cedar Lane remained mine. For 3 years, my parents lived there under the agreement. We rebuilt a smaller relationship. Smaller can be healthier. My mother learned not to cry as a weapon. Not perfectly, but she learned. When she slipped, I would say, "Mom, is this a feeling or a request?" At first, she got offended. Later, she started saying, "It is a feeling. I am not asking for anything." That mattered. My father apologized first by behavior, not words. He paid utilities on time. He handled repairs. He stopped calling the house mine in front of me. Then one afternoon, he asked to meet on the porch. I went. He sat in the old chair Grandma Ruth used to love. For once, he looked tired in an honest way. "I was wrong," he said. I waited. "For what specifically?" He looked out at the street. "For telling you to pay rent or watch Marcus's children. For acting like your time belonged to us because you were home. For sitting in Ruth's house like ownership was mine because I was the man here." My throat tightened. He continued. "For making you feel like you had to leave to be respected." That one hurt. Because it was true. I sat beside him. I didn't want to leave that night. "I know. I wanted you to choose me." He closed his eyes. "I know that now." My mother apologized later in the kitchen. The same kitchen where she had nodded at the rent ultimatum. She wiped her hands on a towel and said, "I made your kindness too available." I looked at her. "Yes. I told myself you were strong, so asking more from you was not hurting you." "It was." She nodded. "I know, and I am sorry for using the children to make you feel guilty." That apology mattered because she named the method. Not just, "I'm sorry you felt bad." Not just, "I'm sorry things happened." She named it. Using the children, making me feel guilty. That was real. Marcus took the longest. He had always believed accountability was something other people exaggerated. But life started teaching him when people stopped rescuing him. Tasha went back to school for nursing administration. Marcus had to adjust work hours. He complained constantly until Tasha told him, according to her, parenting your own children is not oppression. I liked that sentence so much I wrote it down. He eventually apologized after Caleb, his oldest, said something that shook him. Caleb was 12 by then. He told Marcus, "Dad, Why do you always say Auntie Naomi doesn't help when she used to do everything? Children keep receipts too. Marcus called me that night, not to argue, to ask if we could talk. We met at a coffee shop. He looked nervous. Good. I was wrong, he said. I waited. He sighed. For expecting you to watch my kids, for letting mom and dad threaten rent, for acting like your work wasn't real because it happened on a laptop, for sending that text saying the kids thought you didn't love them. My jaw tightened. That was low. I know. No, Marcus, that was cruel. He lowered his head. Yes? Why did you do it? He rubbed his face. Because I was embarrassed. I couldn't afford childcare, and instead of saying I needed help, I acted like help was owed to me. That was honest. Late, but honest. I said, I love your children, but I will never again be forced into parenting them. I understand, and do not ever use their feelings to manipulate me again. I won't. I did not fully forgive him that day, but I believed he understood more than before. Sometimes that is where healing begins. Not with hugs, with understanding that finally cost the person who harmed you something. 5 years after the rent ultimatum, my parents decided to move. My father's knees were getting worse, and Cedar Lane's stairs were becoming difficult. My mother wanted a smaller place near Brianna and the grandchildren. They were nervous, telling me. As if I would be angry. I was not. I helped them find a one-level rental they could afford with their pension and my limited, structured support. Not because they demanded, because I chose. There is a difference. When they moved out of Cedar Lane, the house stood empty for the first time in decades. I walked through it alone. The dining room, the kitchen, the hallway, the back bedroom, Grandma Ruth's porch. Every room held a version of me. Little Naomi doing homework. Teenage Naomi packing lunches. Adult Naomi sitting at dinner while her father priced her freedom. Naomi walking downstairs with the deed. I stood in my old room and cried, not because I wanted to live there, because I had survived there. Then I called Vivian. I know what I want to do with the house. Cedar Lane became the Ruth House, a transitional home for young women rebuilding after family pressure, financial control, or sudden displacement. Not a shelter in the emergency sense. A bridge, a safe, structured place where women could stay while finding work, finishing school, saving deposits, leaving unhealthy family systems, or simply learning what peace felt like. Grace helped design the financial program. Vivian handled legal protections. Dr. Elaine, a therapist I had worked with, created support circles. Aunt Linda ran the kitchen twice a week because she believed healing required stew. She was right. The first resident was a nursing student whose family demanded she quit school to care for younger siblings. The second was a young mother whose parents tried to control her paycheck. The third was a graduate who had been told to give her apartment to a cousin because she was single. Their stories were different. The pattern was familiar. Family needs dressed as duty. Love mixed with control. Guilt used like rent. The Ruth house had one rule painted near the front door. You may help from love, but you may not disappear for it. Women cried when they read it. So did I. We kept Grandma Ruth's porch chairs. We kept the mango tree. We repaired the kitchen. We turned my old bedroom into a study room. Not storage. Not spare. A study room. The first time I saw a young woman sitting at the desk there, working on a scholarship essay with headphones on and no one interrupting her, I had to step outside. Grace found me on the porch. You okay? No. Good no or bad no. Old no. She sat beside me. That room finally learned better. I laughed through tears. Yes. My parents came to the opening ceremony. My father stood quietly by the porch. My mother held flowers. Marcus came with Tasha and the kids. Caleb, taller now, hugged me and said, "This is cool, Auntie." Maya asked if she could volunteer. Jonah asked if there would be snacks. Aunt Linda said, "Always." During the ceremony, I spoke briefly. Not long. I said, This house was once a place where I was asked to pay rent with my freedom. Today, it becomes a place where women learn their freedom has value. People clapped. My mother cried. But this time, her tears did not ask me for anything. After the ceremony, my father stood beside me. Your grandmother would be proud. I looked at him. Yes, she would. He swallowed. I am too. That sentence landed softly. It did not erase the past, but it entered a repaired place. Marcus later found me near the mango tree. I hated that deed, he said. I smiled. I know. I thought it took something from all of us. And now? He looked at the house. Maybe it gave back what we didn't know how to protect. That was the most grown sentence I had ever heard from him. I nodded. Maybe. The Ruth house grew. Not huge. I did not want it to become another system that forgot the individual. We kept it small, personal, careful. Women stayed 6 months to a year. They attended financial workshops, built savings, applied for jobs, learned tenant rights, practiced saying no, worked with therapists, sat on the porch, cooked together, cried, laughed, started over. Every resident received a copy of Grandma Ruth's letter line. Love does not require eviction from your own life. Some taped it to mirrors. Some placed it in wallets. One framed it after moving into her own apartment. The house that my father had used to threaten me became the place where threats ended for other women. That felt like justice. Not revenge. Justice. Revenge would have been throwing everyone out and letting the house sit empty as proof. Justice was turning the house into what Grandma Ruth always meant it to be. Shelter without ownership games. Love without control. A key that felt different because nobody could take it from your hand. Years later, people still ask me if I regret leaving that night. No. I regret not knowing sooner that the deed existed. I regret all the hours I gave because guilt spoke louder than self-respect. I regret letting Marcus's children become a wall between me and the truth. But I do not regret walking out. I do not regret refusing $750 of fake rent. I do not regret stopping the unpaid nanny schedule. I do not regret making my parents sign papers. I do not regret changing the locks. And I do not regret carrying that envelope like a small shield. My parents said, "Take care of your brother's kids or pay $750 rent." So I left with the deed. People love the dramatic part. The dinner table, the ultimatum, the brown envelope. The deed, the stunned father, the crying mother, the brother who thought the house was his safety net, the daughter walking out with a suitcase, and the truth. I understand. It is dramatic, but the real story is not about property. It is about the moment I stopped renting space in people's hearts with labor. It is about realizing that love should not require unlimited availability. It is about understanding that being family does not mean becoming the emergency plan for every adult who refuses to plan. It is about knowing the difference between helping children and being used through children. It is about learning that sometimes the person called ungrateful is simply the person who finally read the paperwork. If you are listening and your family keeps saying you are home anyway, please hear me. You are not a public service because you live under the same roof. Your time is not free because your room is down the hall. Your work is not fake because it happens on a laptop. Your rest is not laziness. Your savings are not family overflow. Your love for children is not permission for adults to abandon responsibility. And your parents do not get to charge you rent in emotional currency while calling it family. Ask questions. What exactly am I paying? What exactly am I expected to do? How many hours? Who benefits? Who is avoiding responsibility? Why is my no treated like betrayal? Why does peace require my exhaustion? Then write it down. Track the bills. Track the hours. Track the promises. Not because love should feel like court, because sometimes people only stop rewriting history when the receipts are on the table. And if you have a Grandma Ruth in your life, listen to her. The older woman who sees through everybody. The auntie who says the quiet truth. The friend who tells you to stop calling exploitation complicated. The lawyer who says, let the paperwork lead. The person who reminds you that a key feels different when nobody can take it from your hand. Today, I still own Cedar Lane House, but it is no longer a battlefield. It is the Ruth House. A porch light, a study room, a kitchen full of stew, a place where young women learn to rebuild without apologizing for needing space. On the wall near the front door, we framed a copy of the deed. Not the full legal document, just the first page with Grandma Ruth's name and mine. Under it, Grace added a small brass label. The paper that answered back. I told her it was too dramatic. She said, so was $750. She won. My name is Naomi Bennett. My parents told me to take care of my brother's kids or pay rent. I refused. I left. I carried the deed. And I learned that sometimes the house you were threatened with becomes the place where your freedom finally opens the door.